So I'll pass it over to
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. I haven't got a PowerPoint, so I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. But I've done this sad thing, like written something. So I'm going to work from this. The title of my talk is Elite to Mass Higher Education, Challenges and Possibilities. Yeah. But I think we'd all agree that access to higher education has become synonymous with the upward mobility of societies and individuals, and this has led to this kind of massive expansion of higher education, not just in this country but across the world as well. Particularly developed world, but increasingly developing world is also trying to catch up.
Sorry, could you speak up a bit, please?
I can, yes. So the process of moving from this elite to the mass kind of education system is not without its challenges, and central to the successful transition is the need, I'm going to argue, for a paradigm shift in our conceptions of pedagogy, knowing, knowledge, and indeed the purpose of education itself. And accompanying this shift from what was, until the past 50 years, essentially a white male elite education system, particularly in the UK and further afield, we've seen a growing demand to decolonise the academy. So the irony of the impetus for decolonisation of universities has actually not come from the UK by some benevolent realisation of the need to develop a critical perspective on epistemology and knowledge, but from post-South African apartheid systems, where the debate has been really raging since 1992. So there are many kind of examples, but it's worth probably looking at, if you haven't looked at, there's a really good website, the Centre for the Study of Legacies of British Slave Ownership at the UCL. And one of the kind of key issues is how the education system itself is a legacy of slavery and of colonialism. And this site has actually identified that slave owners were one very important means by which the fruits of slavery were transmitted to metropolitan Britain. We know that. That's partly why we are seen as kind of advanced. But interestingly, Bristol University, 85% of its original funding came from slavery. And Glasgow University has estimated that its benefit for up to £200 million. And the figures for Oxford and Cambridge are not yet to be revealed, but probably will never be revealed because of what that will reveal. The truth is that many of our universities will not only benefit directly from slavery and colonialism, along with the church, they were also instrumental in producing and legitimising the associations with scientific racism, human intelligence, human behaviour, human character, human pathology, eugenics, social Darwinism, etc. And these still underpin kind of race and class-based ideologies. So universities historically are utterly implicated in the kind of racism and classism and oppression that we have today. Though it's apparent that unless the ongoing legacies of colonialism and capitalism, of the privileging of white European history, knowledge and culture, as well as the reproduction of white patriarchal power structures are addressed, then it's difficult to envisage how one might achieve the kinds of paradigm shifts that are needed if one is to realise a truly egalitarian socialist education system. As Karl Marx and Engels envisaged in the Communist Manifesto, such a system would be based on the premise that, quotes, the free development of each is the condition of the free development of all. So if we look at elitism in higher education, there are complex cultural, social, political and economic reasons behind the development of educational systems, and whom may or may not be deemed to be suitable for higher education. But perhaps the most profound reason lies in unfolding and contested understandings of what it means to be human. Though the Latin scientific name for the human species, or Homo sapien, defines a human as a thinking or wise being, the idea of what it means to be human has and continues to be contested. And as Roger Trigg notes, ideas of human nature are not merely of importance to the individual, but radically affect the kind of society we live in and the kind we would like to live in. So in some senses, the battle is over how you define what it is to be a human being. That links well with some of the debates around diversity and difference. Human history is littered with attempts to subdivide the human species into simple binary categories, for example, into the superior or inferior, pure and impure, rational and dangerous, and so on. And though there are definite cultural and physical differences amongst human populations, indeed no two human beings are even identical twins are alike, the historical division of the human race has primarily served to justify human exploitation, subjugation, conflict and genocide. Indeed, the European slave trade was characterised in Kipling's poem, The White Man's Burden, and assertion that the white man had a model obligation to rule the non-white peoples of the earth, whilst encouraging their economic, cultural and social progress through colonialism. So though the legacies of slavery and empire and ideologies of human difference, of ethnicity, nation, country, etc., continue to shape our imagination, in small and large ways, there's also, as Jonathan Sachs suggests, an important general and unifying narrative about human sameness that needs to be registered. Across the globe, human beings are also remarkably similar. Though expressed in different ways, wherever one goes, humans demonstrate a unique capacity to reason, to think in abstract ways about the past, the present and future, to create complex culture, language, and to display a unique set of emotions associated with empathy, love, hate, greed, anger, pride, and so on, all of which form the basis for much of Shakespeare's work itself. No wonder his work has been translated into all the world's major languages. So if we're looking at a paradigm shift then, what we really need to do is move into areas that we couldn't even have imagined. Now, one of the most profound changes in what is described as a move from elite to mass higher education, the range and proportions of which we can only speculate. If we take, for example, the UK, up to the 17th century, we had but a handful of ancient universities, Oxbridge, St Andrews and Edinburgh. During the 1800s, with the growth of industrial cities as a result of the Industrial Revolution, to meet the technical and vocational needs of the new societies, we had the advent of the red brick universities, the Victorian universities, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Sheffield, UCL, King's College in London. But attitudes towards these new universities were not kind. The educational historian Stephen Collini notes that following their establishment in 1820, the now world-famous University College London and King's College London were dismissed as Cockney institutions, while students at the University of Oxford were quick to question the value and purpose of a more vocationally focused degrees at Birmingham and Liverpool by quipping that students were getting degrees in, and I quote, making jam. So further expansions in the 50s saw 3% of the tertiary population in university. By the 1970s, the figure was 8%, and today it stands at 50%. 5 minutes to go. So I'm going to have to speak even quickly. But I think what this does raise is this idea about the notion of who is capable or entitled to higher education is arbitrary. At best and at worst, it's hugely selective, and it's part of some kind of notion of superior being, a superior biological intelligence. But things are changing. If you look at some of the statistics, we're talking about exponential growths. And I think that we've probably got to a point where education systems themselves will be seen to be universal. And that's partly because I think, I'm going to abandon my presentation now and just speak off. Yeah. So I think partly why they seem to be universal is that, agency is awoken. I think it's been awoken by the work that's been written. A lot of the literature that we read today is only a product of last 30, 40 years. If that, really, most of the anti-racist literature is only relatively recent. And I think that we need, but the way in which people access that material isn't through formal education systems. It's quite the opposite. Through formal education systems, people are fed a particular kind of national curriculum, a particular diet that, as Freddie would say, is alienates them, kind of banking ideas. If I reflect on my own experience, the best thing I did at school was truant, because whilst I was truant, I was actually reading literature that wasn't available to me at school. But I also reflect on that experience, because I actually struggled at school to pass exams. The teacher said that he's clever, but he's very disruptive, so I probably was a radical even in those days without realising it. But the important thing was that there's no correlation between intelligence and passing exams. In fact, the strongest correlation between passing exams is privilege. And we have a system that's predicated on passing exams, and therefore reinforces, imposes desires of privilege. So my kind of remedy really is that the paradigm shift has got to be predicated on the basic premise that if you're a human being, and I think Gramsci talks about that in his prison notebook, he says, all human beings are philosophers. And I would say that we need to cultivate the conception of mass intellectuality. The idea that if you're born as a human being, then it's your birthright to be regarded as an intelligent thinking being, because that's what Homo sapien means. And once we do that, then we dismiss this idea about high or low intelligence. And then we see education and as Marx envisaged, a space in which people, in a sense, in the kind of Aristotelian sense, flourish, achieve their natural potential, whatever natural is there, rather than in a system that is broadly based on, investments in coaching. So if you want to get into Oxford, the way to do it is to have huge investments in your coaching. The problem is for these Oxford students who are going to turn into the Boris Johnsons of the world, they're dysfunctional. So they actually have huge problems with mental health, they have an identity crisis, and then they impose their crisis on the rest of the population. They constrict themselves as the undefined other in all this time. So everybody else is pathologically deranged, damaged, thick, stupid. Yet we know it's Boris Johnson that's pathologically damaged, deranged, thick, and stupid. Yet these people are going to become leaders. These are the people who are running universities, who are vice chancellors. These are the people who claim that they're constructing the knowledge for the world, but they are really the problems of the world. And one last point, actually the solutions of the world, particularly around global warming, around education serving humanity, serving the planet, can only be found by engaging with the knowledge from the grassroots, from indigenous knowledge, from decolonised curriculum, and I think from the lived experiences of people and their own wisdom. So I want us to think about a shift away from a knowledge-based idea of education to claiming this notion of wisdom, because that's a kind of lived knowledge, if you like, and it's a kind of organic knowledge. And we have to find ways of bringing these two together, not in some kind of new age, kind of yogic sense, but in ways that says knowledge is not the privilege of the elites. The knowledge that the elites create are knowledge that just reproduces their elite status, which is the thing that's destroying the planet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gurnam.
It wasn't what I'd written, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's probably better.
Yeah, in the heart.
Our next speaker is going to be Nita.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Okay, decolonising education. So let's see if this technology is going to work. So first of all, we've got to kind of define exactly what we mean by this. Decolonising the curriculum. It's bandied about all the time now. It's kind of buzzy, but what's happening? Let me just talk about this incident, which kind of fits in with what I'm trying to talk about today. I was at SOAS yesterday. I don't know if you've heard, but one of their law lecturers is standing for the AFD. So there was a mass demonstration yesterday. We had testaments from individual students talking about this individual in lessons, and the racism and the homophobia, the comments that he was making. One of them was, "No means yes," and we kind of know as women how that feels. And like SOAS, a very internationalist university, a very diverse university, who has been at the forefront of decolonisation, or decolonising the curriculum. And yet, I had to stand on them steps yesterday with those students and talk about why it was not right for that individual to be at that university. Of course, academic freedom is sacrosanct. Academic hate isn't. So that is the definition. And even the university itself has released this very inane kind of press release to say, we respect academic freedom. As academics, we absolutely are at the forefront of ensuring that everybody has academic freedom. But yes, there is a limit. We do not have that academic freedom to cause hate and to perpetuate hate. So this fits in very well. So we talk about decolonisation, but it's all right playing lip service, and I think I've actually got a lip service here somewhere as well. Anyway, so freeing the country from the dependency of another. As an Indian, I know about that because my parents have told me about that. So therefore, how we kind of translate that into what we're talking about education, it's freedom to teach and learn from the constraints of a colonial straitjacket. Now, do we have that? I don't think so. How are we constrained? So, Freire, there's no such thing as neutral education. Education either functions as an instrument to bring about conformity or freedom. Do we have that? Do we have the latitude? Do we have the freedom to actually teach the students of the future to be free thinkers, be creative, be inclusive, talk about the global issues that are upon us at the moment? Do we have that? I don't think we do. I think here Freire highlights the point. Our colonial education system is geared only to reproduce an ideology of whiteness. Freedom of thought, freedom of identity, freedom of otherworld connectivity becomes restricted to exemplify the normality of the all-powerful colonialist. That's obviously my interpretation, my own point of view. But you can see, even at the meeting that we had before us, we have this kind of shroud of colonialism around us all the time, no matter what kind of sphere of life that we go to. And it starts at the heart of our education system. So we need to be above this. And as an educationalist myself, I'm teaching teachers of tomorrow. I teach in a college, on an access course. So to be quite fair, I have quite a lot of latitude. And, I can't talk about education without talking about politics. I also teach on an access to health course. So I'm talking to our healthcare workers of tomorrow. And again, how can you talk about healthcare without talking about education? Or politics as well. Education and politics, they're intrinsically linked. So I have to say I have quite a lot of latitude as far as that is concerned. And we talk about this all the time. And I have students that come to me and say, I did not know that. I did not know that our education system or our healthcare system is so fundamentally reliant on the work of international workers. Okay, so I'm not going to say anyone in particular, because internationalist says it all as far as I'm concerned. I consider myself to be an internationalist. So sometimes I would say Nita, where are you from? Are you mixed heritage? Are you this? Are you that? Or what? I said, well, if my parents had anything to say, it would be like, Nita, you're a Hindu, you're this. And I'm an internationalist. That sort of covers it all then. And I think it also stops people yeah, okay, that's a pretty cool definition. We should adopt that. Because it's not, as we were talking before in our other meeting, about fragmenting who we are. Asians, Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, okay? You can't, because this is what the state wants us to do. They want us to be divisive within ourselves, and the more we fragment and compartmentalize who we are, it is to their benefit, okay? So Freire was a cool guy, I like him. So where does it start? It starts very, very early on in schools. So we have schools where, that's quite an average amount of languages spoken in one school, 38, okay? So what does the curriculum say? This knowledge curriculum that's been sort of foisted upon us educationalists. Shakespeare, great, Shakespeare. A 19th century novel, a selection of poetry since 1789, and fiction of drama from the British Isles, 1914. We have to do this, okay? So you can see, how individuals coming from speaking 38 languages, this is going to resonate with them, isn't it? Wonderfully so. So this is where it starts, yeah? This is where it starts. So already the connectivity with education is becoming a little bit distant, okay? What's this got to do with me? What's this got to do with my culture? My parents don't talk about Shakespeare. My parents don't talk about Shakespeare. Okay, I grew up with my mom loving her Bollywood movies. and my dad loving his Hollywood movies. So like, I'm a big movie fan, Hollywood, Bollywood, love them. Yeah, that was my culture. I still love Shakespeare, I love it. But it's very, very different. My friends were Irish. My closest friends were Irish. My other closest friends were like West Indian. So like, you know, that is what I grew up with. That is what I know. Yet, my curriculum, this is the curriculum today, does not kind of resonate with me at all. Okay? So again, we're distant. My 16-year-old daughter, okay, she's in throes of doing her GCSE exams. How many exams has she got to do in these 2 or 3 weeks? Yeah? 24. 24. I have stepped away. I bow down to her. No kind of pressure. How did you do today? It was crap, Mark. It was really hard. It was really hard. On Monday, last Monday, I think she had like a Spanish exam and a PE exam. And my other daughter, who's done Spanish as well, she's like, what did you do in the Spanish exam? She says, they gave us this card. We had to like translate and talk about it. She says, that is what we used to do in A-level. So already, and we said, examinations, testing, for the privileged. You know, what chance has my daughter got? And many, many others like her. So here we are, we're being set up to fail, you know? The working class don't actually need an education, do we? Yeah? We're the workers. Get your maths and English sorted. That's all you need to know. You don't need to go to college, so let's shut down all colleges. You don't need to go to universities, you haven't got enough money to go to university. Let's like put tons and tons of fees and interest on those fees, so you think to yourself, you know what? I don't want to start my life in so much debt. Nah. Okay? So every single time, barriers are being put up in place. So, oh my God, look at this. A Jamaican feminist, Una Maud. Do we talk about her? No, I don't think so. Stuart Fail, British Marxist sociologist. Has anybody talked about him? My daughter's never come back from school talking about these individuals. Rabindranath Tagore, fantastic poet, philosopher. Sarojini Naidu, famous Indian female poet. Okay, just as a taster, you know, why aren't we talking about these individuals in our education environments? Why the colonial curriculum? Because it serves capitalism, it serves the systems, the superiority, and again, as we talked about before, the exploitation of labour. I'm only just going to headline these because, you know, I've given my time limit, but go away and think about it. And at the end of the day, follow the money. That's what it's all about. Follow the money. Okay? I feel like said in some kind of Hollywood film. Okay? So I'm just going to quickly wrap up. Why so little progress? Why bother? It serves capitalists and the state's purpose for us to be kept in our place as workers. So, you know what? Why bother? Lip service. Race equality charters. Tick. Yeah? In education institutions have this, you know, they strive to have the credentials of being like a, you know, an institution that has race equality within the confines of its institution. However, please, it means jack, okay? But yeah, let's tick that box and say, yeah, we're very inclusive, very diverse, blah, blah, blah. Institutional racism. Again, take you back to yesterday. Why haven't the university done anything? I have been going up and down the country on various university campuses where we've had the rise of the right, the likes of Generation Identity, the Stephen Yaxley Lennons, and all the rest of them. Yeah? What have the universities been doing? Should I tell you? Nothing. Because it serves their purpose. We cannot taint ourselves with getting a bad name about this university because, you know, we have zero tolerance. Okay, so in order to acknowledge what these individuals are doing, they then have to fess up and say, you know what, you know, that race equality charter, it's not really quite working here. That then messes with their bottom line, doesn't it? Because if the students aren't going there, what's happening? The ka-ching isn't happening again, and their wonderful shiny buildings won't be built. So there you go. Marketisation and the neoliberal agenda. Again, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And as I said in my other one, follow the money. What do the students say? And there's a few testaments there. I'll just pick. One of the courses I took, the material was biased and racist, and the tutor wasn't comfortable teaching the course. Yeah? My tutorials are usually all white, and I sometimes feel uncomfortable and isolated. Again, these are anonymised responses to a survey by black students. And I use black in a political sense. Why are statistics important? So just go for that one. 42% of black students said that curriculum did not reflect issues of diversity, equality, and discrimination. 16.1 is the gap, or thereabouts, between the number of 2-1s or first degrees awarded to white and black students in the UK. So again, this is the culmination of everything that I talked about beforehand. What to do? For a start, have teachers that look like me. Kind of look like me. Well, like this. Yeah? So that would go quite, you know, representation. You know, why aren't there lots and lots of teachers that look like me? Accessible literature, and I showed you a number of individuals that we could talk about that do not reflect the dominant Eurocentric ideologies and concepts. Learning environments need to reflect global identities, going back to universities which are built on colonialism, colonialists and racists and slave traders, okay? And challenge neo-colonialism. Oh, that's my last one. Is that time? Okay.